All right, so now I want to move to the big question. So I think we mostly have consensus that the world is not working for a lot of people, even though we can make meanings that say it works for us. I think we have consensus that it's not working as well. And so the question is, are you interested in doing the work necessary to create a better world? And I'll leave that rhetorical at this moment and explore a couple dimensions of it. And first, what needs might be met by truly engaging in systems change? This is the framework I'm sharing. It's not about buying an electric car. It's not about recycling. It's not about a solar panel. It's about putting yourself forward to join a movement to change these systems in a way that makes the world work for everyone. So here are just a couple needs in looking at needs that might be met by that effort. And one is, again, this one we've talked about, need for others' well-being. Connection is also there. Belonging and support. Interdependence, because it's going to take a village to change these systems. Justice and fairness is a key element, key need that can be met. Purpose, perhaps there's purpose in this work. Growth and wholeness, I think, of really integrating with others and integrating with the natural world. Flow and spirituality, a spirituality of oneness can be met by this work. And then adventure. Yeah, it'll be an adventure and there'll be some risk. It'll be exploration, a lot of learning and novelty. What I'm wanting to build is something that hasn't been built before, but also for authenticity, to really be living a true life, contribution, and enjoyment and fun. I think any movement that's not fun is going to die pretty quick. So I'm hopeful that this one will be based on enjoyment and fun. And now I just want to look at also some cons, things that might not be met, needs that might not be met. And there are several, potentially. Order and familiarity, trying to append these systems will change the orderly order of your life and the order of the life around us. Emotional safety, potentially. I think there's a risk because going against the dominant narrative is not easy emotionally. Physical safety, perhaps, could be challenged. Acceptance, especially an outward focused acceptance from those who don't really see the problem that we identify. Self-efficacy, it might be tough to see movement on this. Power, play and rest is another one. We can always find play and rest, but again, it won't be easy to change these systems. And then productivity, reliability, it might be difficult, efficiency, effectiveness. These are all potential needs that might not be met. And before we get into a discussion on this, I'd like to share the reasons why I'm committed to building a movement to create a world that works for all. And I'll put this out, and then I'm going to open up a dialogue about your thoughts on your willingness to put out energy to create this world. So first off, as I've said before, I know I have great privilege, and I'm excited to dedicate that to make the world a better place. And I've had a history of depression, as I mentioned earlier, so I've had felt experience that the system doesn't work for me. The culture, the socialization I received really, really didn't work for me and led to suicidal ideation and thoughts of killing myself and a lot of suffering. So I don't want to have any more personal suffering, and I also don't want others to suffer. If we're not able to change these systems to mitigate emissions, there will be a lot of suffering in the world, and I'm motivated to prevent that. And as there's an urgency, there's a real urgency now, given what we know from science. And this is a big one. I'm not addicted to outcome, and this is another a Buddhist means of thinking, that if we go into anything thinking something certain will happen, we not only make it harder for that to happen, but we lead to our own suffering, because that doesn't work very well. And I wrote a whole article on emerging from climate fatalism that goes along with this idea. And I'm looking for purpose, and I'm seeing a potential purpose in this work. And part of how I want to live is connecting with others, being in a relationship with others. And then I have some skills that I think can help build the kind of organizations and movements that I'm interested in being part of. All right, so I'm going to take this down and just hear from whomever. Any reactions? What are you interested in doing, if anything, or what are you doing? I know people are doing a lot of things, and I guess the question I'm asking is, what about joining a movement, getting together with people to talk about this analysis that systems aren't working and seeing where that leads? So would love to hear any feedback on that idea.
I have a question, David.
Yeah.
Can you name your movement? Is it started already by you and are there a lot of other people in it, or what is it?
There's me and one friend of mine, Brian Peterson, who's the professor of the book that I mentioned, Climate Solutions, and we've been meeting for a couple months trying to figure out exactly how to move forward, and we haven't decided, but I had this opportunity, so I'm putting out the call. And the movement at this point is a movement to create a world that works for all. And the challenge with inviting people into something is that it has no real clear definition at this point. It's just an invitation to hold to that vision and come together and see what happens.
Okay, so I have another question. For some reason, didn't get on until like 15 minutes after the program started.
Yeah.
Did you mention that book in the beginning? Or did you mention this person in the beginning of the talk?
No, I mentioned it when we went through very briefly when I talked about systems, and the book it's in our references, so I'll put it in.
Okay.
In our references, yeah. So no one's jumping and saying yes. So what's going on for people? What do you think? I mean, is this too much or what? I'd love your feedback. Ellen, go ahead.
David, this has been wonderful.
Yeah.
A great presentation. And it really gets you thinking. You know, my group is reading this book, which is a moment of choice, and it has to do with deciding what kind of a person are you going to be.
Yeah.
And so we've looked at this and we're now thinking, okay, where do we go from here with the climate and what needs to be changed in the world? So we're beginning to do that.
Wonderful.
And I think that I just feel that what you've done today, this presentation, I don't think you can listen to this presentation and not want to jump into something and begin. You know, Al Gore back in 2007 had some really good stuff going on, and he was, you know, he had a book out and he had a TV program, and I had about 20 people in my living room, and you know, we tried to get things started, but it kind of fell apart. But I think it's the time is now. We have no choice. We have no choice.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. I really appreciate that. And that's exciting that you have a group that's already moving in this direction. And if there's anything I can do to support you, and also just want to say that, you know, this isn't an easy choice to join a movement with little definition. So I invite people to consider that as much as possible. And I'd like to share a little bit more about specifically what that invitation might be after I hear from Mary. So go ahead, Mary.
Well, you were just wondering what we think about this presentation, and I have to say every day I wonder, what can I do? You know, I see it, I read it, I feel it, and I just think this is so huge. what can I do? And I almost feel defeated. But my ears are open and my eyes are open, and I definitely am looking for solutions too.
Great. Yeah, thank you. And I think you're not the only one. So what I'll do is just tell you exactly what I invite you into. And so here's Dave's invitation. You are invited. And I'm going to just share some specifics here. So I believe we need a mass movement to create systems change. And I believe everyone willing to join the movement has a part to play based on their willingness, skills, and capacity. Everyone who's interested in this has a part to play. And I see three broad tasks for that movement. One is to create a community of action that lives the values it wants to bring to the world. And for me, some of those values are compassion, authenticity, nonviolence, connection to all life, and love. So first is creating a community of people that are living these values. Second is, as I alluded to, the inner work of exploring our worldviews, beliefs, and how those play a part in the global predicament, and exploring alternatives, some of which have been discussed today. And then the outer work, that's typo, should be the outer work of exploring how, well, the third is outer work. First big typo there. The outer work that I talked about previously of considering exactly how to change our system. And there's a lot of ideas out there. I'm going to share an article in the end that offers one frame called degrowth. So that's part one. And then the other part is what agreements would I ask you to make if you want to be part of this movement? And this is all very tentative, but I want to make a clear invitation. And one piece is a shared assessment of the problem. And that's an agreement that to address this predicament, a mass movement to change our dysfunctional systems is necessary. Again, I'm not interested in having you buy electric cars, recycle, and put solar panels on your house. Those things are fine if you want to do them, but I don't think they're going to change the systems in the way that we need. Second is a willingness and capacity to meet, an agreement that you're willing to meet with others and co-create how this works. And providing safety for all attendees will be a key element of in-person meetings, which means we probably wouldn't do that for a while. But a willingness to move, to meet and co-create, and a willingness to grow and learn. And it's an agreement that you are willing and open to learning through the process. And I'm reminded of this adage that I heard from a dating website ad in the 90s. If you want something you've never had before, in our case, a new world, you're invited to do some things that you've never done before. In our case, come together with a group of like-minded persons to co-create a movement never seen before. And then lastly, a willingness to explore this concept of non-attachment. Because the first thing that did stop me from joining a movement is a sense that it won't work, that it's not going to work, so we shouldn't do it. And I was disabused of that notion by reading a book called How to Blow Up a Pipeline by Andreas Malm. And in it, he talked about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising in World War II. And he talked about how those folks, those Jews that were suffering in rising up, they might have given themselves a few more days of life. And they knew when they started that they were still going to die in the hands of the Nazis, but they still did it. So this is something that I really agree with. All right, so we're down to about 5 minutes. And what I'd like to do, I think I will put the link in the chat, and I'm going to go back to this page and grab a couple links here for you all before we end. So first, I'm going to put in an evaluation form, and this is a chance for you both to evaluate what you experienced in this session. You can click on that, and I'll give you a second to do that. This is a chance both to evaluate the session and also to consider if you'd like to join the kind of movement that I just described. So that's our first one. So I just either copy that or click on that. And then next, this is the references. And then wanted to provide an article that starts moving towards solutions. We really didn't get to that yet today. And that is something that I think collectively we need to explore. But this article will give you some directions to what that might look like from this book that I mentioned, Less is More, by Jason Hickel. And I want to do a closing here since we're just a couple minutes short of our finish time. So what I would like to do is maybe go around, invite people to unmute themselves and say a couple words or a short phrase that reflects something you're taking away from our session. And I'll call on you, and if you want to pass, that's fine as well. But just invite you to share a short phrase or a couple of words that are something that's gonna stick with you as a result. Why don't we start with Ellen? Go ahead.
I just got back and I haven't been able to download this stuff yet. What I got from this session is very interesting information, and a strong desire to step into this.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ellen. How about Martha?
Okay, thank you.
It gave me a lot to think about. I tend to be more specific about what I want to do, but I've always been thinking that I need to do something, and I've been talking to people, and I'm kind of amazed at how many people either have their head in the sand and don't feel that they themselves can do something.
Okay, Martha, I'm going to cut you off there. We're a little bit over time, and I really want everyone to have a chance to share. So again, my request is for a couple words or a short phrase that reflects something you'll take away. Carol, would you be willing to share? You're muted, Carol. You're still muted, Carol.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's a really eye-opening presentation. Thank you, David, and I really do want to help do something. Thank you.
All right, great. And Mary, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to read Less is More. This is something that I've been thinking about is, why have I bought into everything that's around me, the socialization, and just reevaluate a lot. And it sounds like that would be a good eye opener right there.
Send me an email and I'll mail you a copy or give you one.
I put my email in my evaluation. Is that good enough?
Great. Yeah, that's super.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
As long as you mentioned, did you say you want a book?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll take a book. Oh, but then you need my address.
Could you email me and just say you want a book, Dave with Heart? Could you do that?
Yeah.
'Cause if it's
Yes.
meetings, I'll forget.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Barbara.
Which one?
Williams, sorry.
I always have to put my last name. Yeah, this was really, yeah, like Carol said, an eye-opener. Lots of concise information, because you tend to get little bits here and there, and it's like, oh, okay, But this really kind of showed the big picture, and I definitely want to get active in doing something more.
Okay, thank you. And Marilyn.
Well, I think this is a good basis for continuing discussion. We've touched on so many things that it would be great to continue talking about it. I've been in a lot of different groups where the talking goes nowhere, so we'll just see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of my fears, and I'm committed to make this go somewhere. Katerina.
Good.
Thank you, David. And I apologize that I came late. Your talk made me think about how many people don't understand that our planet is a very complex ecosystem which is based on symbiosis of millions of smaller systems. And there's big part of population which simply ignores it. If we kill our bees with pesticides, we cannot talk much about farming, or
Right.
farming will be
Catherine,
much more difficult.
I'm gonna cut you off. I'm sorry, we're over time, so I'd like to give
Yes,
the
okay, thank you.
a chance for a few words or a phrase about what you're taking away. Barb.
Big picture. I have a lot of little pictures about climate and the environment, and this gave me a big picture.
Okay, thank you. And Susan.
I put in the chat, I really appreciate this opportunity to connect in the community. I'm about direct action in the way of Code Pink shutting down and Extinction Rebellion. And I'm looking forward to the revolution because that's the only way that the planet is actually going to survive. So if anybody's interested in direct action, please reach out to me.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, Susan and Katie, and then I'll get the last word.
I think my little phrase is inspired by Martha's specificity comment. I'm inspired to find my niche in the movement. And for me, that might be looking at the huge issues in healthcare. I'm inspired to have healthcare that works for all.
All right.
About time.
Thank you, Katie. And just want to close with a big thank you, Beating Heart. Thank you all so much for being here. And again, thanks so much to
Thank
Barb for
you.
making this happen. And I hope you all have a super duper great weekend and look forward to seeing you around town. If I don't see you at a meeting for a movement to create a world that works for everyone. Thanks a
Thank you,
lot.
Dave, so much.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.